this is the completed hand. We'll be talking about the construction. We've got a enclosure, basically just a plastic enclosure I got from JCar. On top of that I've mounted a nailing plate, which is a couple of bucks from Bunnings, and I've used that as the palm. On the palm there we are attached to the fingers, which are basically 20mm HDPE pipe from Bunnings. I get down to 1 metre length. It's also quite cheap. Running up and down the fingers are tendons there. They're used to connect to the servos on the inside. That's about 30-pound braided fishing line. Closer in here, just from Kmart there. And then I've got the actual joints themselves, which are made from a measuring tape, which I got cheap from Bunnings as well. Originally I was going to use a compressive springs, but the springs themselves provided far too much force when they were glued in place. All of the joints there are glued with epoxy, just araldite. And the idea with all these pieces and the rudimentary construction is to keep cost down. Connections for the actual fingers here to the palm or the nailing plate is just cable ties, and the nailing plate itself is attached to the enclosure by some screws there, nuts and bolts. The knuckles there, I've drawn in my plans originally to have 2 knuckles before the fingers connect to the hands here. I'm talking about these parts. Originally I had the tips to these knuckles and then the palm to replicate an actual hand. I made it down to 1 knuckle just to make the action a lot better, a lot smoother. Especially when I was playing around with the springs, it was impossible to get the draw length on these tendons down to something that would be acceptable to be pulled across by the servos, which are, pull about 30, 40 mils. That was one reason. The second reason was obviously there's a lot more force required to do that when you're using springs. Even when you're using the tape there, the tape itself is quite, as you know what a tape is like, that's quite springy. So, and it's very, very easy to pull over. I was quite pleased with that as a solution to the springs. Here we have the inside of the enclosure. You can see the hand mounted on top there. Here's the underneath of the lid. I have the servos attached there. And the tendons come through the holes there and attached to these servo arms in 5 locations. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Named from left to right. You see the tendons there, into the holes, through to the bottom. The servos here are connected into power and to control via the cable. Comes with the servo. This mess of wire here I've cable tied up is all of the power. So red is positive, black negative, and I've attached that to a breadboard which I'm using as a bus. That also has the ground for the switch, which I'll get to in a minute. So what I'll do is I'll have a 6 volts supplied here, in this enclosure, this battery pack, and that attaches to the positive and negative rail there, and that supplies power for all of the servos. Provide control of the servos. Obviously I'm using my Arduino. You can see some of the wires here. It's hard to tell because there's a bit of a nest going on, but these all attach back into the connection here on each individual servo. Pinout I'll provide in my report. We'll detail what pins go to where. To the Arduino here I've connected that's an Arduino type model push button board, and that just goes into one of the ports here, which I believe is F. Off the top of my head, yes, yeah, it's F. And the reason I've chosen F is because they all line up nicely in a row. It makes for a much neater construction. Here we have the power supply for the Arduino 9-volt battery connected, just a plug connector into the board. That's the whole lot. Okay, now I'm going to show its function using the push button here. So we'll start off with A at normal speed. Come on, baby, go down. And reset. It's E. It's E again. What was that? That's I. It's L. That's U. Now I'm going to try to slow it down again. So I'm using the push button here, so I'm getting that out of frame. That's a slower function. So that's using push button. Doesn't like that. Reset and try a different value. There you go, slower again. And reset. So that's, I cycled through all of the signs, and I've done a couple showing that the toggle button here works for speed. And reset. There you go, it's done.